All right, welcome everybody to another episode on Keyboard Interrupt Podcast. Today, got a special guest, my uncle Josh. Josh, glad to have you on, man. How you doing today?
I'm well. Glad to be on.
Yeah, thank you, man. Can you just give us a little bit of your intro about yourself, what you do, and how you got involved with the whole tech industry?
Sure. I'm Josh Tukuafu, and I'm married to Lee. Um, and I currently am a systems engineering manager for Motorola Solutions. I've been in that role for about a year and been with the company or in the industry for about 16 years now.
Nice, man, nice. So I think it was like in junior high or high school when the first company you started out with, right? Was it Spillman?
Yep. Uh,
And then they got bought out, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I started with them, and they were really my first official tech job, but I was in the doing techie stuff before them.
Mm-hmm.
I can elaborate more on that, but yeah, they're a public safety software company. I am in that field. I went to school. I minored in a very similar field, but yeah, been 16 years now this
Mm-hmm.
month. So
Nice. So I guess we'll go back to that a little bit. So like growing up, I know traditionally that wasn't like your initial path was to get into the tech industry. So can you kind of just describe growing up, like what was it like in the household in terms of tech, anything tech related back when you guys were growing up in the what was it 80s or 90s? I forget which you guys are. You and Tim were 80s or 90s?
yeah, late 70s or 80s. So I mean, going back, I remember our very first computer. Grandma bought it when I was maybe in third grade, and
Yep.
we had these old, I mean, the big, discs, the big floppy discs, and there was a game on there called, I think it was Tank,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, they're Atari style graphics. We also had an Atari from what I remember.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that computer way back when, and would play these old school games on it until we got our very first Nintendo back in like 1986 maybe or 85. But
Yep.
yeah.
Man, that's I remember my dad and them. There's a couple games you guys used to play all the time, right? Was it what's that one football before Madden? What was that game again?
Oh man,
The
I'm offended now. Okay.
the
I'm sure a lot of your viewers will understand Tecmo Bowl. Come on.
yeah,
So
Tech Mobile, man.
come on. All right. Before Madden and before uh, NFL Blitz and all these other games, these are
Oh
all
dang, man.
spin-offs from the original Tecmo Bowl. So
Right, right, right.
I'm sure a lot of the people watching this will be able to relate and remember the good memories with Tecmo Bowl, one of the all-time greats.
Yep, yep. I think another thing, because I know you, like I remember the earlier times of growing up. Just I know you guys always tinker around with stuff with like the speakers in the cars. So like, what got you guys into interested into like doing all the radio systems? Because I remember you, Nusi, like Tim, you guys were all into the whole tinkering around with the cars and stuff and getting
Well,
the radio systems hooked up.
I think
What made you guys interested in that?
I think that was your other uncles. They knew how to you know wire up get those pull-out radios and then
Yeah,
wire them up with like wires that you're not even supposed to use and
right, right, right.
are not safe. But yeah, they were more into that. Um, and I I didn't really dabble too much in that, but um, yeah, these guys were more like hands-on, and like to toy with that kind of stuff. But
Right, right. No, I bring it up too because I remember Grandpa also had a lot of cars too that he would always work around. Because I remember coming around sometimes this guy would always like be fixing spark cables on stuff or doing stuff to like fix Mata's. Remember the green little Jeep she had, or was the Ford Explorer? The Ford
yep.
Explorer, and then Grandma's car as well. So no, those are always interesting times. Yeah. So and then in terms of like growing up. I know early on you guys, like schooling wise, what was your intent early on, like in terms of career? What was your like what were you trying to do in the future? Now that you think back on it.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I mean, I remember in high school not knowing like what kind of opportunities were out there, and when I was a senior, they started, sending us seniors like information on going to college, and I already knew like, well, I'm going to go on a mission first, and then plan to go to college after that, but had no clue, what field I'd go into. I took an art class and I drew, some weird stuff, and the art teacher's like, oh, you got to take up art, and I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess I'm doing art. So I asked the counselor, hey, can you send me some, college information, and figured, okay, I'll maybe go into art.
Yep.
And then um, coming home from my mission, I still wasn't even sure. And I remember I just knew, and fortunately at that time, I had, your dad and your aunts had already started going to college. And
Right.
so they helped me actually, get financial aid applications in, and um, get me set with like get me started on my general ed courses. And so uh, I started taking just any class that sounded interesting, and then it was actually a bishop of mine that was like, "So what are you majoring in?" One of my classes just popped in my head. I'm like, "Oh, I think I'll do like, major in ethnic minority health and human services." And he's like, "Okay, but what are you going to do with that?" And
Yeah.
when he asked me that, I was like, "Geez, what am I going to do with that?"
Right.
Uh,
Right.
um, but I'd always been interested in like criminal justice. I think a lot of uh, Polynesians like or have some sort of interest in like criminal justice,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I was one of them. I figured, I wouldn't mind like, joining, or becoming like an FBI agent.
Hmm.
I always had some sort of interest in that field, and um, in fact, one of my primary teachers was, an FBI agent, and that may have sparked a little interest in me. So anyway, I started taking criminal justice courses, but then I decided to just do a minor in criminal justice. And one of those criminal justice classes was a forensics class that I took up at Weber State University, and found it really fascinating. Like the crime scene, and my forensics professor, um, I mean, just the things that he would, you know, his experiences that he'd share with us, like really caught my attention. And so I really wanted to, or really developed a strong interest in maybe doing something in that field. Then I later realized, oh man, I'm not good with seeing like blood and stuff. So
Right.
maybe not a great field for me to be in, but there
Yeah.
was still some like, I was still really fascinated by that, and so I ended up getting a minor degree in criminal justice. Um, and then I don't know if you ever watched like the Born Identity
Yeah.
movies and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
So I loved watching the Born Identity movies with Jason Bourne, and thought it was really cool, like, all the tech that they used to try to track him down. And eventually, the tech company that I got started with, and that I'm with currently, like that's exactly what we do, to make communities safer. And so I'm really passionate about, what I do now,
Hmm.
and the type of tech that's involved. And so that minor in criminal justice, I've actually spoken to a lot of students, mentored a lot of college students um, that are going into like, and want to do criminal justice. And so I always, just try to let them know that, you don't have to be like an officer, and those are great things to do. You don't have to become an FBI agent. Um, consider like the tech side. of that.
Right.
And there's tech involved with just about everything, but I've had the opportunity to go and talk to a lot of students and let them know, like, there's more, to that field. If that's really what you want to do, maybe consider going, into the technical side of that. So,
Right. No, I definitely know that like in terms of recruitment, like FBI, those three-letter agencies, NSA, CIA, they're big in terms of recruiting, especially those within the tech. Because if you realize, like nowadays, too, the new attack front is like in the tech world, right? Is like how can we attack a country or people um, through like technical, like through the computer without having to even do anything like physical or waste any resources, right? So, um, yeah, yeah. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
no, I was just going to say, so after I had graduated with my bachelor's degree, I took the FBI exam and I passed the exam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so actually, your Auntie Umu and I both took the exam,
Uh huh.
both passed, but I was at the like bottom end of what they were looking for,
Right, right.
because I didn't have I didn't speak like one of the preferred languages that they were
Mm-hmm.
looking for, and I didn't have like a focus on like the hard sciences, and so.
Right, because you have to be like what trilingual or at least bilingual, right?
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like your Auntie Umu, she graduated in the finance side, and so that
Mm-hmm.
was a little more preferable, and they were coming after her or recruiting her. But for me,
Oh, okay.
I because I didn't have like a background or an emphasis on in those preferred areas, I
Yep.
was pretty much at the bottom of the picking list. So
That's interesting. Okay, so I want to talk to that a little bit because, from my understanding, I thought you guys were both going for like law school, but I didn't know you guys were. Was it the FBI first, and then you guys decided to go into law school? How'd that work out?
for me, it was either one of them.
Uh,
For her, I think she knew she was going to go to law school.
uh,
And then when she started like taking the prep exams, that's when I started, to think, okay, maybe, I'll try that. And it
yep.
worked out for her. And for me, it took me a different direction.
Right.
But definitely for the better. Like I'm really happy where I am, and she does great with, as an attorney for, a tech company, and
Mm-hmm.
I get to, I'm more on the hands-on side now,
Right. Right.
with uh, with tech. So.
So when you first got started with the company, did you expect to like get involved on the tech side? How did that whole thing go down in terms of you being introduced to more of the tech side of like things within like the criminal justice side of things?
Yeah, so I did expect to get, and that's actually one of the reasons why they hired me. Not because I was
Okay.
super technical, but because I knew how databases work, especially
Mm-hmm.
with like public safety databases. There's so many different um, public safety databases that are out there, that are being
Right.
used by these agencies. And so before I joined the tech space, I worked in public safety for a few
Okay.
years. Yeah, and I got really familiar with, the different databases. So like there's a database called the NCIC database, the National Criminal Information Center. It's based out in Virginia, but
Yep.
that's a big one. And I used it when I was working in public safety doing investigative work. Use that regularly. And then there's also local databases that are for state agencies, and so I was using that and doing like a lot of investigative work, trying to find people and also again keep communities safer.
Right.
So
Right.
so when I had completed my MBA, that's when I started looking around, and just seeing what was available. And this tech company popped up, and in the description, it was everything that I wanted. I wanted to get involved in tech, but also have a foot in with public safety. And so this job, or this career allowed me to do both, to keep my, one foot in public safety, which I'm, really passionate about, and then the other one, in the tech space. So I knew, and they knew again, and that's part of the reason why they brought me on,
Mm-hmm.
um, was because of that. that knowledge. So.
Yep, nice. So, in terms of like these databases that you're working with, did you have any prior knowledge from college? Like, was there any MySQL classes that were being taught that you had to learn, or was it just all, excuse me, was it all on job like experience that you picked up?
Both actually.
Okay.
It's funny because when I was in college, so I took an Access class,
Mm-hmm.
where we learned how to use Access, and but then and that was just one of those required, general ed courses that you had, or for your generals that you had to do.
Yep.
And then I signed up for a computer science class, not
Oh, okay.
not knowing
Right. Right.
how in depth it was going to be, and
Yeah.
that there were other courses that I should have taken before jumping into that class.
Yeah. Like prereqs.
Prereqs, yeah. So I just signed up for it, thinking, oh yeah, I want to, computer
Yep.
science. That sounds great. So first day of class, I go there and they're like, all right, open up command prompt and
Yep.
type in ls minus, and I'm like, oh,
What are you talking
yeah,
about?
like command prompt.
This
Wait,
is a
how?
foreign language.
Yeah, how do I get to the command prompt? And
Yep.
I look back and laugh at that, and so I ended up dropping that class.
Okay.
But then later I took some other computer science courses, like used like game maker, designing our own video games,
Right.
and learned a little bit about a lot of different things. And so I learned how to, whether with SQL or and also running scripts and um, you know relational databases as well. So kind of picked up some of these things, but then when I got into the public safety world, that's where I saw where it really came um, into play is using these different databases and um, finding you know information with these relational databases. But
Right.
yeah, even till today, there's some little things that I do, from running Python scripts to other little queries, but nothing too technical. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, just dabbled a little bit when I was in college.
Right. Right. How would you say the whole like industry has like public safety industry has changed in terms of when you first got started in it to where it's at now in terms of like how tech is integrated into the systems? Because I'm wondering if when you started early on was there still stuff being done like by paper or had everything already been in that was it still in the infancy of like being integrated with a lot of the tech stuff?
Surprisingly, a lot of organizations or agencies are still using pen and paper, and I think you find
Right.
that
Right.
more in like the more rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
But in like your inner cities, or big like metro agencies, that they've a lot of them are on their maybe second or third um, system. And so
Right.
and I remember when I was working in public safety, we had the or well, not the green screen, but we had like your Unix or Linux looking screen, where you're looking up data from these databases, and it's the whole command prompt screen,
Right. Right.
that you're having to punch information into. So
Yeah, because I'm imagining like even a lot of those early people that did integrate their databases with like tech stuff, it's still probably old legacy
yeah,
systems, right? That are still trying to upgrade or even maintain now today in 2024. Because I realized that too when I was working for an insurance company, they were still like they were one of the first ones, and this is 2020 when I had worked this insurance company. A lot of them were still transferring from paper storage of documents and things to more of things being stored on computers. So it's interesting that there's still that shift in different industries outside of like the main tech companies that we think of when we think of companies that are tech companies specific, right?
yeah,
S- Go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, even if it's not like pen and paper nowadays, a lot of them fortunately have upgraded to like even using like Google Docs or Sheets,
Right, right.
um, which is still a lot better, instead of having to you know thumb through paper. And so I think back to your question, like how I've seen things change over time. and those legacy systems, some of them really do work really well.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And I know as system administrators that they won't switch because it's reliable. It's been working, for the
Yeah.
last decade, and
If it's
they're
not
okay
broke,
with that.
don't fix
Yeah,
it.
yeah. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But where I've seen, um, since being in this space and in public safety, like where it's come from, and where we are today, there's definitely been a a big jump with, I mean, I would say like real estate, and space. So
Definitely.
when I was working in public safety, like we had a sea of like filing cabinets, and if
Hmm.
you needed to go and look up information on somebody, like I would be sitting and going through all these paper files,
Right.
and then they started like, transcribing these things or digitizing them,
Yeah.
and now it's like, oh, Control F, and
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
find exactly what I'm looking for.
Takes
Um,
2 seconds what used to take hours.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I can, get, exactly what I'm looking for in a PDF document or in some sort of in a digital document. So, I mean, I think that's one of the bigger transformations that I've seen over time. And then I think just with actual, like, with the manpower as well. So nowadays, with we have drones and we have cameras all over the place. You don't need, you know, as many people, and a lot of these organizations or agencies, they're understaffed. And so the
Right.
way to combat that is to, ramp up, the tech. And so
Yep.
with, cameras everywhere and, you know, interfaces to the public, with their home cameras and stuff and the sharing of, their, media on their phones or through their home systems, like that helps quite a bit with, the or the undermanned departments, and it helps tremendously when you can just access a camera from, and pull up an accident or,
Hmm.
crime scene through, cameras that are out there already in the public. So,
Right. Right. No, I think that's interesting. Another point that you bring up that I want to know what your take is on this, because in a sense it is good, the tech, right, for excuse me, for those or for those stations like police that are under resourced, understaffed, right? They're able to deploy. Like one thing I know I've seen for sure, those robots that they deploy that like go down the streets and especially in neighborhoods where they're understaffed can kind of just monitor the streets. They have cameras all around them, right? And it's kind of just like one of those robots that just rolls down the street. But in a sense too, there's also like some people are weary of it because like the whole invasion of privacy if there's increasing cameras. So what's your like? What do you think a good medium is, or what's your take on that in terms of? It's good that tech's helping out areas that are understaffed, but is there also like an invasion of privacy at times when that does happen?
yeah, and I think the laws, they're getting better, as far as
Yeah.
protecting, and making sure people's privacy is respected and protected. Um, even in public safety, a lot of, officers or agencies, that have that same take, like, you know, it's a little too big brother,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was gonna bring up.
yeah, yeah, and even they themselves, may not agree with it.
Yep.
And again, that's not speaking for all of them generally,
Right,
but
right, right.
even they like privacy as well.
Yep.
Um, so I think as long as we have, the right laws and rules in place to, make sure we, put a fence around it and it's
Yep.
controlled, then that's okay. So.
Definitely. How like one of the emerging techs nowadays that people it's like a hot topic is AI. So how have you seen that being integrated into maybe what you do or how's is do you use it at all and what's that experience been like for you?
All the time. I mean, I love when it fixes my email, my
Right, right.
grammar, and
Grammar.
yeah, corrects my grammar on my texts or my
Yep.
emails. I'll be honest, I do appreciate that. Yeah, and so in the public safety uh, arena, I mean, AI, it's used and it helps.
Yeah.
But again, it, it does have to be regulated,
Yep.
um, and I think you always need human intervention there as well. Uh,
Hmm.
but like I, you know, we use AI, well, and in the industry, it's used to help, give higher probabilities, for solving crimes, um, for making the things a little more clear, so whether it's a video of a crime being committed to focusing in on like facial recognition, license plate readers to make sure they get the most accurate
Yep.
um, you know plate number, things of that nature. So
Hmm.
personally, I use it, and it's used in the industry,
Oh, definitely.
and it definitely helps.
Nice, nice. What's your day to day look like, or early on in your career compared to nowadays? Because you said you're more of a manager role right now, right?
Yep.
So, what was that like early on in your career in terms of like working with the tech and different tech stack you were working with to how it is now?
Yeah. Geez. So early on, I think back to, um, well, it definitely was a lot of hands-on. A lot, I was
Yep.
because I was an end user, and it was trying to like help other end users, with their adoption of the systems to now, you know, managing, so I manage a team of solution architects now.
Okay.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, and so uh, it's lots changed. I mean, obviously, my involvement now, from trying to help, other system administrators, learn their role, learn like, how to set up like permissions and code tables and, all these things. I don't really do that much anymore. So
Hmm.
I do some stuff, very little these days, but like my team, my of solution architects, I mean, they're still in there running scripts and creating scripts and data mapping and data sets. They're still involved with that, and so it's definitely changed from when I first started as far as like my responsibilities are concerned. But I still like to keep a hand in there and and try to do some things that I can. But
Yep.
uh,
Nice. What do you like most about your role in terms of like that integration that it has between the tech space as well as like the public safety space?
well, as I mentioned before, so I like working, because I like working with public safety. I'm passionate about helping them, keep our communities safer. And
Yeah.
so um, just being able to see like, the different applications and tools that are out there, to keep, our kids safe at school or, to help reduce the crime rates or, and assist the officers any way we can or, you know, responders. Um, and so I kind of feel like if you've seen like there's a lot of Batman movies, right? I'm looking at your
Yep.
background. You
Yep.
got
Yep.
Wolverine and Deadpool back there. Well, Batman, like my favorite Batman movie was Batman Begins. So that
Uh-huh.
was with Christian Bale
Yeah.
and Morgan Freeman. And if you remember when Christian Bale goes, he's going down to see all the cool equipment, and Morgan Freeman's down there, and um, he's telling Christian Bale that, oh yeah, they put me down in applied sciences, and then that's where he gets to drive that big old tank
Right.
around.
Right. Right.
Like I kind of feel like that's very, that the role that I'm in is I get to see and I'm exposed to all the really cool tech that's coming out, and
Yeah.
then I'm responsible for making sure like my team learns it themselves, that they know how to deploy it, and how to integrate it into like these, public safety systems that are out there. So, like I get, you know, um, like I get the opportunity to be able to watch, you yeah, but no, I get, um, the opportunity to see the new tech that's coming out, and in some cases, actually, I'm involved with the product side to give input on how I think it should work.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of my experience and also like organizations that I've worked with. And um, so I'm also with some products I'm able to give some feedback as to what we could make improvements on, and then our dev managers will and product teams will consider what my recommendations are. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Nice, man. Man, it just it's cool just to gain insight into that, like this space that you work in, because like I said, most people when they think tech, we think of like the tech companies only usually, but you don't realize how much tech is integrated to other areas, other industries, especially nowadays. It's one of the main things that folks look for in terms of how they can optimize their business or speed things up. You know what I mean? How they can best outperform other companies, and usually tech is a big plays a big role.
Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe not realize that there's tech involved behind like everything, right?
Yep.
Just about. So, when you call 911, there's tech involved with your cell phone or wherever you're calling from. And so it allows the, dispatch centers, for example, to be able to, get a feed from, or, pins on a map where you're calling in from.
Yep.
There's tech behind that. And then there's tech, that helps them relay your information to, depending on the type of call it is, to like which responders need to, find you. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, there's tech throughout that entire process or that journey with like first responders, from the time the call goes in or someone hits like a panic button or an emergency button, on a college campus, and then how that data gets, relayed to someone at a dispatch center, and then someone at a dispatch center then gets that information over to the right person to come out and help. So,
Nice, nice. What do you see the future looks like for the industry that you work in terms of the tech space? What is some of the big things that they're trying to integrate right now and work on to help, I guess, the work that you guys are do on a daily?
I think interoperability, and trying to, make things work with other people's systems, more sharing, of data, but also of technology. And
Right, right.
so, we can all help communities, be safer. But I think a huge area now is, the space that you're in. So in cybersecurity,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's,
Yep.
from, encrypted data to,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, and to just trying to, keep things safe,
Right.
so,
I think nowadays too, in terms of when I think cybersecurity and how it relates to the public safety side of things, I go back to what you mentioned earlier, like the forensic side of things, like investigating folks' phones for data that's tried to have been wiped. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of that. Have you ever dabbled in any of that or met anyone that does any work with that kind of stuff?
yeah, a little bit. I mean, I personally haven't had to, wipe or try to retrieve data, but
Data, yep.
yeah, I do know people who have, um, and that's pretty much what they do. And
Mm-hmm.
then, um, a little bit on like the evidence side, and how we keep evidence,
Right.
and keep, people's, you know, handprints or fingerprints off of evidence, and how you,
Right.
and from physical evidence to even digital evidence, and making sure it's not stained in any way, and
Right.
that it remains like pure and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to someone who's like trying to figure out a career in terms of text related stuff? Because the reason I bring up this question, before I bring up the question, or before you answer the question, I remember a couple years ago, you took me out to dinner one time when you came and visited me here in LA. And we were talking about college at that time because I was like my freshman year of college. And at that time, I was doing civil engineering, and it's more so just because like my dad's done construction, and I've seen the job stability and security that he's had with like the construction field, so that's why I was going there. But then I remember you had mentioned like getting into things tech related, or I think it's management information systems. That was the degree you'd recommended me, which is like, for those who don't know, that's more of like a business mix with tech. And I kind of like, in my mind, I was like, man, I could never do that stuff. What are you talking about? And then surprisingly, when came down, did my switch to the 4 year university, I ended up falling like having a passion for coding and stuff. And then we had that conversation. So, what advice would you give someone else who's possibly thinking or debating whether they should get into something tech related?
Sure. I think I would advise you to think long term, and by that, what I mean is, well, a few things. So, and maybe I'm just speaking more for myself, but if you have gout in your family, like we do, and you
Oh, I'm
don't,
good, man. This is my dad. It's my dad, dude.
but I would have never thought of this back then, but now that like I've gotten gout, I could not imagine working in a construction field or, or at the airport,
Yep, yep,
having gout and like, not being able to go to work. And so
yep.
that's one of my recommendations. So if you have gout in your family, the tech space is a perfect fit for you. So, uh,
uh,
all you have to do is just be able to sit down and at
yep, yep.
a workstation and be able to type. Your foot can be propped up and you're good. So that, long term, again, maybe for you younger techies out there, or
Yep.
anyone that's considering going into this space, think if look back and see if your family has gout, in its history.
Right,
And if
right.
if you can answer yes, then this is a great space for you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then, you know, I also, because a lot of, our people are in construction, or, manual labor, eventually that wears on you. And, if you're not at the office, behind a desk, um, eventually, and we've seen this, I've seen this with, family members and uncles where their bodies, they've just aged, and then they have the back problems and all kinds of things. I mean, those are just some of the things that come to mind, but it's really a space that we're not really represented well, and
Yep.
so I and it just, if you're having concerns or fears about going into this space, I mean, there's boot camps, or you can take basic, classes, even YouTube videos. I know
Yeah.
people that will look up, wait, okay, what command do I have to put in there?
Right.
CD space, and these are things that are you can find in YouTube and or even your videos.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, my recommendation to people that are considering going into this space, um, there's a lot out, a lot that you can get into, whether it's on the public safety side or if it's, I mean, really, tech is all over.
Yeah. Any industry nowadays.
Yeah, in the industry, for me, like again, I can't imagine. I mean, I've worked from home now for over, 8 years now, and
Oh, dang. So
yeah,
before the pandemic.
so yeah, even before the pandemic, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been, a really huge blessing for me, and um, maybe not so much my wife, but for me, I
Oh, my
like.
wife likes it. My wife likes it.
It took my wife a little getting used to. Like when I
Yep.
first started
Yep.
working from home, and I kind of broke into her routines and stuff, and
Yeah.
eventually she accepted it. And we made it work. But
Right.
um, again, I couldn't imagine like trying to, go and work in the field or something, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, ha having gout or something like this has been perfect for me. May not be for everyone, but
Right, right. It's funny you bring that up because I still remember Mafu had a story, and he took a video of you leaning back in your chair, and he goes, "Man, must be nice to work from home."
Yeah, I mean, not every tech company allows that,
Right, right,
but
right.
it's a great, you know, option that does come. Even when I was in the public safety world, though, we had flex days, and the public safety world. When I first started in public safety, I remember, they gave me a badge, they gave me a duffel bag full of safety equipment, they gave me a cell phone and a laptop.
Hmm.
Um, and then they gave me with my laptop, they gave me a little dongle too. And this is like back in 2007,
Hmm.
and I was like, what, what's this for?
Yeah,
And
what's this for?
yeah, they're like, oh, it's like this MFA, this multi-factor authentication. And I was like, man. And now that I think, how many years later, like, man, they were pretty on top of things. They
Early on, yeah.
early on, they didn't want me to, use some, or you know, kind of just be like safe with our like equipment, including like the data, data in
Right, right.
transit and all that stuff. So
Yep. No, that makes sense. So you talked to that a little bit. You said there's a dongle. Was it one of those? Because when I think of what you said, MFA, I remember I've heard of it before. It was early on where they had those keys that would the numbers would switch on
yes,
it. So before we have like the phone 2FA, talk to how that worked.
yeah, no. So Fridays I'd be able to work from home, and again, this was in the early 2000s, and
Yep.
so when I logged into my laptop and I got on the network, and then it would ask me, or when I signed in with my credentials, I had to wait for the numbers to generate on this little dongle for
Uh huh.
the two-factor authentication.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then I'd have to use those numbers to sign into the agency issued laptop. And
And
so,
that thing wasn't connected to the internet or anything, right? Like it
no,
wasn't like an IoT device. It just
no,
had a like its own little chip probably that ran its own numbers and stuff, right?
correct. Yeah,
Nice, man.
so yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, fast forward, 14, 15 years now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they were pretty on
Everybody's
top of
using
things.
2FA now
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. Nowadays, it's
But that's cool that you like, and it makes sense too for public safety. They'd be the first adopters of it, just to like you said, securing data in transit, data at rest. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, yeah. So
no, that's cool, man. So, in terms of, I want to talk to that too as well. So, even though we do have like the perks of like working from home and things of that, there does come a lot of stress or like burnout sometimes with tech. Have you ever experienced that? And when you have, what are some of the ways that you've kind of been able to overcome that burnout that comes with like having to think? Because physically it's not demanding usually, but lot like the mental space sometimes you can. A lot of people experience burnout within the tech space. So can you talk to that a little bit?
yeah, well, I mean, I've seen people with burnout from maybe writing bad code, or when they
Yeah.
check in code and it's things aren't working, and then all of a sudden it's like all hands on deck because
Right.
we someone's system went down because of some you know bad code or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
But I think where I've seen it personally, is patches. Like I remember working closely with the public safety agencies, and a bad patch was deployed, and um, people were up all night trying to like fix things, and
Hmm.
yeah, and this was with the previous company, but
Yep.
like I remember some customers would be like, well, we're not accepting a patch until midnight, and
Midnight.
yeah, when it's not busy, no one's on
Oh,
the
right, right. That
system,
makes
not
yeah, that
peak
makes sense. That
hours,
makes sense. Yeah.
and so I wouldn't have to deploy the patch, but I was more like damage control. And
Okay.
so, once the patch was deployed, we'd give it a couple hours and like, oh, okay, people are getting logged
Yep.
back in, things are good. Um, but like I've seen, and know people that have experienced burnout because, of things of that nature, where something doesn't go right as planned, and now like everyone's scrambling to try to, fix things.
Right.
Um, maybe where I see it more, the the work from home stuff is great, right? It's I definitely get a lot more done working from home, but 12 hours could go by and you're like, oh, I better stop working,
Yeah, yeah. My
Um,
wife reminds me when 5 o'clock hits.
yeah, yeah, or, and I'll have people contact me, and we're a global company, so I'll have people contact me from the other side of the world,
Oh yeah.
but fortunately, like there's things that I could do from my phone or my work phone
Hmm.
that, you know, someone, I mean, it's happened where I've had people like, hey, I'm locked out of my account, and so, and again, they're on the other side of the world, and
Hmm.
it's midnight over here, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll hurry up and jump on and get them
Right,
unlocked
right.
or something like that. But yeah, burnout can be experienced in a lot of different ways, and I've seen it. I know you've seen it too.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, you find different ways to deal with it. I've seen people who have like, when we were in the office, people that had like, basketball hoops or punching
Oh
bags,
yeah.
little,
Yep, yep.
or little roller bikes in their,
Uh-huh.
under their desks and stuff like that. So
You do any of that stuff? Any of those like treadmills under the desk or
no,
standing up?
no. So my home office is right next to like we have a little gym in our basement. So
Oh, nice, nice.
yeah, but um, yeah, so I try to get over there and just do something, you
Yeah.
know, in between. But
Hmm.
it's funny actually when we were in office, um, and I was on this floor with all the PMs. I PM'd for a while,
Hmm.
and like every hour, what we would do is like we'd do like team push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like.
It's something to stay active.
Yeah, like today was arms day, so we'd all at the top of every hour, like, all right, X amount of, push-ups or, dips on our chairs and stuff.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, but
Nice, man. I guess what outside of like the whole tech stuff that you work on and things like that, what are some things you'd like to do to break away from the computer outside of like to get your mind off of the tech that you work on?
well, I think the first thing is to shut my computer,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
like don't touch the computer at all. Like, uh, just going outdoors, going to the park, going to the kids' sporting events. Yeah, but it's almost like you can never really escape it. I've got
Yeah.
my work phone on me just in case, and what I tell my my team members is I'll let them know, hey, you don't have to take your laptop with you. Just put me on your out of office, and I'll
Yeah.
you know try to help resolve it, or I'll let get someone else on it or delegate it. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, I have people tell me like when you go on vacation, go on vacation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
don't take your laptop with you. Turn your work phone off.
Yep.
So,
No, I definitely set that email to contact other people because I have man, I have some coworkers that'll put something to the like they'll say, if you really need me, you can reach
yeah,
out to myself, and I'm like, nah, man, you contact this other person that's working. I'm
yeah.
definitely of that mindset of when on vacation, be on vacation.
I know, maybe I do too, because even my team members will tell me like, "Hey, don't, or why are you answering, this IM for? Shouldn't you be on
Yep.
vacation?" So,
Right, right. I know, and I guess it is different because I'm still early on in my career, and it's a little bit different when you're at like the manager level because you oversee more people than just what you're working on, right? So,
yeah.
man, well, I guess what advice do you see in terms of like your kids and stuff getting to tech? Is there like, because that's something I'm always interested in too, is how the younger generation is being taught in terms of tech. What's it look like? What your experience been with your kids?
I don't really like push them to tech.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they see the benefits
Hmm.
of me being in tech,
Right,
and
right, right.
so and they, I'll bring things up here and there about like how tech is pretty much supporting us,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of opportunities out there, but they're all they have different things they want to do and pursue, and Um, so I don't really steer them to
Right,
this,
right.
but I do
No,
let them know it's
that's
a great place, to
yep.
be to work in. So
Yeah, no, I remember AJ told me he was taking a Python class like
hmm,
his freshman year, and I was like, "Oh man, keep up with it." And then I asked him his senior year, he goes, "Nah, dude, it's not for me." I was like, "What?" But it's like what you said, like introduce them to different topics and things like that, so they can at least have different options in the future. Because like it's like what you said, you can't, especially early on, you just gotta put out options. So that's what I'm trying to learn with like my kids as well, is just to put the option out there. If they like it and have a passion for it. If not, no worries,
yeah.
try something else. Because we all have different strengths and skills. But yeah, man. Well, yeah. That being said, man, appreciate you being on the podcast today. Again, always been a great mentor of mine, especially getting into this tech space. Never thought I'd get into it, but Josh is definitely one of the reasons why I stuck with it and pursued the career in tech.
Well,
So I appreciate you being on today, man.
I'm proud of what you're doing, nephew. So keep us
Appreciate it, man.
safe. Keep us safe out
Definitely
there.
trying to, man. Trying to. All right, take care.
Okay.